I'm back. Week 2, baby. We're at video number 8, eight, if I can count, of 100 days of YouTube. And today we're talking about multi-threading. Everybody's favorite subject at the moment. It seems to be one of, apart from is cold calling dead and is the SDR role dead? Multi-threading seems to be the number one topic I see a lot of. And that's because it's really fucking important. If you're doing anything like an enterprise deal, anything with a business over, I'd say, 200 people, you need to be multi-threading like your life depended on it. Now, when you think about the number of people you need to have in a deal, I remember almost 15 years ago when Challenger Sale came out, CEB, or Gartner as they are now, had this stat that on average 5.6 people were involved in every decision, every purchasing decision. They ran that same piece of research a year later and they had a bigger number, 6.4. Anyway, fast forward 12 years to 2024 and the latest research is suggesting that it is 11.2. So if you're doing a deal and you're only speaking to one or two people, you are missing out on maybe 10 people who are involved in that decision-making process that you should be talking to, that you could be talking to help you get this deal over the line. So it's really important. It's really, really important. And there's a couple of reasons why. One, it gives you a much better view of what the problem is and what the challenge is and how the organization that you're talking to actually goes about making their decision. There's a kind of parable of the blind men and an elephant. And each blind man is standing at a different part of the elephant. One of them, and they're kind of touching the elephant to try and figure out what it is. And one of them is touching the trunk and says, "Oh, it's a snake." And the other one's touching its ears and says, "Oh, it's got wings, it must fly." And the other's touching its leg and, "Oh no, it's a tree." The lesson being, everybody has a slightly different view of what the problem is. Everybody has a slightly different view of the world, and you need to multi-thread to get that 3D view of what's going on, that 3D view of the organization, that 3D view of the problem, so that you can be sure you are addressing the pain points for each one of those views and providing value. So, how do you do this? Start early, go broad, map out the stakeholders, use LinkedIn is a great tool for this. Try and aim for at least 5. Start the process before you have a meeting. Have in your mind the kinds of personas that are typically involved in your kind of deal. So if you're selling some kind of MarTech solution, then clearly you're going to want to be talking to people on the marketing side of the business and the demand generation side of the business. But you're also going to want to be talking to people in sales. You're also going to want to be talking to people in IT, particularly if it's got an API into another piece of kit or another piece of technology that the business is using. And you're going to want to be speaking to somebody in finance. So try and figure out who are the individuals that I want to speak to in this business based on the kind of personas that are typically involved in the decision that you have. Reach out to them early, LinkedIn connection, send a message just saying, "Hey, I'm meeting with so-and-so from this department. Typically, someone like you would be involved in this kind of decision, this kind of discussion. I'll loop you in, let you know how it went afterwards." So start to warm up that relationship. In your initial meeting, don't ask for permission to multitask. Don't ask, who else should be involved. Explain from your perspective who else is usually involved. Even state some of the names you found on LinkedIn and say, would that be correct? I've already reached out to them. But here's the key. Don't ask for permission. Don't allow the first person you're speaking to become a gatekeeper for you. They need to, hopefully they'll be a champion, but you need to really test that, because when this is done wrong, they end up being a gatekeeper and you just get stuck railroaded in a cul-de-sac. You can't go around them. They won't let you. They basically own you, and you're solely reliant on their goodwill. And if you let that go too long on in the deal and try and break out from around them, you'll just piss them off and they'll cut you off dead. So Start from a position of power, start explaining you're going wide. After that initial meeting as well, you want to figure out if that person you've met with is truly a champion. I can't remember who I stole it from, but I use the AIMS acronym. So do they have authority? Do they have influence? Are they motivated? And I really look at motivation by like how much energy they've got around solving the problem, and do they have skin in the game? Right? Is it personal to them? Is there something that solving this will deliver to them, or not solving this will keep them in a difficult or make them in a more difficult situation? So think about that. Also, think about for all the individuals you're reaching out to. It's the classic WIFM. What's in it for me? When you're connecting with the individuals, you should know the personas or try and war game what the persona is going to want or need to feel like they can sponsor this deal, to feel like there's value in it for them, to feel like they want to spend time with you talking about it. Try and get executive sponsorship early in the deal as well. Warm up executives. This is a point made really well by Kirsten Connor. She talks about executives not liking to buy on their own. I talked about this book before, Selling Above and Below the Line. It talks about the different kinds of questions, the different kind of language that your stakeholders will use depending on whether they're above the power line or whether they sit below the power line. So try and warm up a couple of executives, try and make them feel like they are one of a handful that is involved in this discussion and not the only one. They don't have to kind of make this decision themselves and sponsor it themselves. So give them that kind of comfort by going broad and getting a group together. Build relationships, not just transactions. So if you're just constantly asking for stuff, asking for help, asking for insights, it's pretty one-sided. They're going to get pretty frustrated pretty quickly, and you won't get responses, you won't get engagement, you won't get what you need. So you need to be thinking about, how do I add value to this individual? What information can I share? That could be stuff that your business has produced, insights from third parties in the marketplace, or, and this is going to sound really counterintuitive, just helping connect them with different parts of their business, telling them what's going on in their business, because once you get above a certain size, the left hand very often doesn't know what the right hand's up to, and they might bump into each other or find out things. But trust me, these individuals do not talk as much as you would imagine about all these different things. And when they do meet up with each other, typically these days is over Zoom. They've got a different agenda, and it's definitely not about you and your deal. So add value by joining individuals up within an organization. Try and make sure you've got contacts that sit kind of three levels of power or three levels of value in your business. So the end user, who's going to be using the tool that you're selling, and how do they feel about it? Are they energized about it? Do they have do they have influence as well? Often you'll find individuals that have really kind of unassuming job titles can carry a hell of a lot of influence. These kind of linchpins, you want to kind of seek these individuals out, but make sure you've got end users, line managers and directors. So they're very good at champions at that level, because while they can't say yes, they can say no. What they can also do, though, is they can give you great insight about what's going on in the executive suite, what they've seen or how they've seen the executives make decisions before, and they can pass that insight on to you so that you're forewarned and forearmed. Exec to exec engagement, I think I've talked about this maybe on day 5, but try and get your executives man-to-man coverage with one of their executives as well. And if you can do that for a couple of executives, that's really powerful. Don't expect your executives to just ride in there and be super salespeople. Don't expect their executives to instantly want to engage with your executives. You're going to have to do the hard work for them. You're going to have to write the emails, make the match, explain why it's good. You're going to have to do that on both sides. You're going to have to convince your champion of it as well. Hopefully your champion is influential enough and motivated enough to help make those pairings, but you're going to have to do the heavy lifting for them. And then the final piece is you need to track these stakeholders over time, right? So over any given period of time, people will move on, jobs will change. Particularly in this climate, you might find there's a restructure, someone's made redundant, someone's taken a package. So track how these individuals move, and have an idea You know, so you've got your kind of tier one multi-thread individuals that you've identified before the meeting and that you're kind of looking at. But just think about who else could be involved. Think about that number of 11.2. It could even be more than that. But if you're talking to 5, 6, 7, but you've identified another 5 or 6 or 7, you should be in a good place. If somebody moves or somebody moves out, that you've already got an idea of who that one of those individuals might be that could slot in. So that helps create a really good situation for you, create some redundancy. The other most important thing about multi-threading, and this isn't my line, but it's fantastic. What multi-threading isn't is it isn't sending bulk emails. What it is lots of instances of single threading. So lots of one-on-one conversations, right? Lots of smaller meetings where you can get people to open up, to spill the tea, for want of a better phrase, to share with you what's going on. And then you can create consensus that day. It's much easier to manage individuals through a buying process that way than it is to get everybody on a call and try and herd cats. Right, that's me for the day. Multi-threading, incredibly important. And as I kind of my rule of thumb is, if you're not talking to at least 5 people in a deal that's anywhere approaching enterprise value, and I put that as businesses with anything more than 200 employees, if you're not speaking to at least 5 people, you're probably not going to win the deal. And if you do, it's more by luck than by judgment. I will see you tomorrow.